that are interested.
They've got a lot more than that, a lot of more possibilities. David Hunn, it was fast and furious yesterday down in Dallas. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, McGraw.
All right.
I think I'm still tired.
Yeah. It sounded like it was dueling news conferences and dueling conversations. First, let's get to, looks like Stan Kroenke, there was some movement or at least some information coming out of Kroenke's side.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the whole thing yesterday was everybody squeezing their plan for as much, to sweeten their deal as best as they could, Kroenke included. So basically, he sent a letter to the LA Opportunities Committee, this important committee that is really making at least the first part of the decision on who's going to move to LA and who has, met the guidelines, meaning what teams get to stay in their hometowns. So he sends a letter to this committee and says, you know what, I could take another team in my stadium, and this is the deal that I'll give, and it was roughly a 50-50 deal on game day costs, or on stadium costs and game day revenues. So it was very interesting. It immediately went through that the conference center there so fast, and people just were buzzing about whether or not it was a good deal or a bad deal, whether or not Dean Spanos, Chargers owner, would take it. Most figured that was probably the target.
Right. Okay, so that's sort of the opening salvo. They're certainly not going to negotiate through David Hunn's articles in the Post-Dispatch, but...
I keep hoping, but yeah.
But it seems like... They don't. If you read all the tea leaves and you play it out to its logical conclusion, both sides don't have enough votes to get what they want, so they might have to negotiate some type of deal.
No, it is. McGraw, you're exactly right. I think it's such a fascinating game right now because Dean Spanos and Mark Davis are probably preferred among owners. Most people think, but they still don't have enough votes to make the Carson plan work. So that means they have to give in some too. So Kroenke has, people figure a few less votes now than Dean and Mark. But still, with neither side having enough, they may end up with a marriage they don't want.
Is there a possibility of a fourth team going to Los Angeles?
I would say that absolutely anything is possible. I mean, it's kind of the Wild West out here.
Yeah. All right. So we also know that the deal changed again. The naming rights money, the NFL said, we want that, and the St. Louis group said, okay, fine, take it.
Yeah. Right. So this came up very quickly. In fact, I think that I was at an owners meeting when they announced the naming rights deal, or at least close to it. And the NFL said immediately, that's not public money. And so that was an issue immediately. Now, the NFL has an interesting perspective on what's quote-unquote public money, right? Remember that they also think that taxes paid on tickets aren't public money.
Right.
So, you got to take this all with a grain of salt. But I think what roughly happened is that actually, you remember Kroenke and Nixon met, right?
Right.
Kroenke is getting a little more involved in this process. And also, to give credit, the Rams have been sitting down with the, Governor Nixon's task force fairly regularly. And my understanding is that the Rams actually said that this isn't working. The owners don't like it. We don't like it. You got to change this part of the plan. And the task force changed it. So now it looks like the taxes, the game day taxes, will go to pay that.
Yeah, I like
construction cost.
Was it your article where you have somebody from the NFL quoting, "Hey, if we're going to spend $200 million on a stadium, that naming rights money's ours."
Yeah, no, that wasn't mine, but it's totally true. That's what they think.
Hey, wait a minute. We don't care what you're spending. We're giving you $200 million. That naming rights stuff's ours. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you the world they live in. So now they've got what's the takeaway from this owners meeting now?
So, I think we all came hoping there was going to be a little more something, a little more conclusive, and it just isn't there yet. I mean, I think the takeaway is that these guys don't yet know what's going to happen. I mean, we all expected for the NFL to broker some kind of deal where the last vote, the vote that makes the decision, the owners, it was a kind of a brokered vote where they all know what's going to happen ahead of time, right? Everybody I talked to doesn't think that's going to happen now. They all think that they're going to go in without knowing the results, and that they may have to sit in that room and vote over and over again until they get a result.
It sounds like, though, there was some people floated the idea of pushing it off a year, but that sounds like that didn't carry the day.
I mean, this is my personal opinion on that, so take it for what it is, right? I think that they're going to go into that meeting probably in January. They could push it another month to February and vote and try to hammer out a deal. But what if they go 3 hours and they've had multiple votes and they still can't get a deal? Well, suddenly you start talking about next year again, right?
Right. I really think, though, it's now Spanos and Kroenke have 40 days to go outside and cut a deal because they're not going to get one muscling the NFL on their own.
Yeah, I think that's a smart conclusion because basically the NFL may force them to cut a deal at the last minute, but I think they're both going to realize that it's smarter if they start talking about it themselves. They might cut a better deal for themselves.
The meetings are over, right? You're headed home?
Yes, today.
David Hunn, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a reporter. Great job, as always. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks for being here.
You got it. 724, Big 550, KTRS. The real estate market